My daughter yelled, "Stop giving me advice. I'm an adult now. Don't interfere in my life." I nodded. A month later, she lost her job and called, "Mom, can you help with?" I answered, "Good day, dear listeners. It's Clara again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I had spent 35 years working as a school librarian in Portland, Oregon. My husband, Robert, passed away 4 years ago, leaving me the house, a modest pension, and enough savings to live comfortably. My daughter, Melissa, was my only child, and I believed we had a close relationship. I helped her through college, supported her during her divorce from her first husband, and was overjoyed when she married Derek 3 years ago. They lived across town in a rented apartment. Melissa worked in marketing, though she changed jobs frequently. Derek called himself an entrepreneur, which seemed to mean he started businesses that never quite succeeded. I didn't judge. Every family has its struggles. The first warning sign came 6 months ago. Melissa called, crying. Her company was downsizing. Could I lend her $3,000 until she found new work? Of course I could. She was my daughter. She promised to pay me back within 2 months. 2 months passed. No repayment, no mention of it either. When I gently brought it up, Melissa snapped at me. "Mom, I'm dealing with so much stress right now. Do you really need to pressure me about money?" I apologized. Perhaps I had been insensitive. Then came the second request. Derek's startup needed capital. Just $5,000 this time. It was an investment, they said. I'd get returns. I wanted to believe them. I transferred the money. The visits increased after that. Melissa and Derek came by every week, sometimes twice, always around dinner time. I cooked for them, of course. What kind of mother wouldn't? They'd leave with containers of leftovers, sometimes asking to borrow things. My nice serving dishes, Robert's tools from the garage, my mother's silver candlesticks just for one dinner party. Nothing ever came back. I started noticing other things. Melissa had a new designer purse. Derek drove up in a leased BMW. When I mentioned I'd never seen my candlesticks returned, Melissa looked annoyed. "God, Mom, you're so materialistic. They're just things." Family is what matters. I felt ashamed for even asking. The incident that changed everything happened on a Tuesday evening. I had made pot roast, Melissa's childhood favorite. She and Derek arrived late, barely greeting me before sitting down. During dinner, I mentioned that my friend Susan's daughter had just gotten a promotion. I was simply making conversation. Melissa's fork clattered against her plate. "Here we go again." "What do you mean, honey? You're always comparing me to other people. Susan's perfect daughter, Janet's successful son. Do you ever think about how that makes me feel?" I was stunned. I wasn't comparing. You were just making me feel like a failure, like I'm not good enough for you. Her voice rose. Derek put his hand on her arm, but she shook it off. "I'm so tired of this. Tired of your judgment. Tired of your advice." "I didn't give you any advice." "Stop giving me advice," she screamed, standing up. "I'm an adult. I'm 32 years old. Stop interfering in my life." I sat frozen, my hands trembling in my lap. Derek stood too, looking uncomfortable, but saying nothing to defend me. "Melissa, please, sit down. Let's talk about this calmly." "There's nothing to talk about. I need space from you, Mom. You're suffocating me with your constant meddling." She grabbed her purse. "Come on, Derek, we're leaving." They walked out, leaving the pot roast cooling on the table. I heard Derek's BMW roar to life in my driveway. I sat alone in the silence, wondering what I had done wrong. Had I really been interfering? Was I a suffocating mother? The questions circled in my mind all night. I didn't hear from Melissa for 3 weeks. Every time my phone rang, I hoped it was her. It never was. I considered calling, but her words echoed. She needed space, so I gave it to her. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, my phone finally rang. Melissa's name flashed on the screen. "Hi, honey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mom." She was crying. "I lost my job. They let me go this morning. I don't know what to do. Can you help me with—" And there, standing in my kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear, I felt something shift inside me. I took a breath before responding. "Help you with what, Melissa?" "Money, Mom. Just until I find something new. Maybe 2,000? Derek's business isn't doing well either, and rent is due next week." 2,000. On top of the 8,000 I'd already given them. Money I'd never seen again. "Let me think about it," I said quietly. "I'll call you back." "What? Mom, I need an answer now. The landlord—" "I said I'll call you back, Melissa." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Clarity, perhaps, or anger I'd suppressed for too long. I sat down at my kitchen table with a notepad and pen. Old habits from my library days. When facing a problem, document everything. I started writing. $3,000 in March, $5,000 in May. Various items never returned, including my mother's silver candlesticks worth at least $800. I calculated the grocery money I'd spent feeding them twice weekly for 6 months. Another $1,500, easily. The total made my stomach turn. Nearly $18,000 in 6 months. But it wasn't just the money. I wrote down other things. The way Melissa called only when she needed something. The way she'd weaponized my love against me, making me feel guilty for setting any boundary. The screaming match over nothing? Had that been designed to push me away so I wouldn't ask about the loan repayments? I thought about Derek. He never worked a regular job in the 3 years I'd known him. Melissa supported them both, yet they lived beyond their means. The BMW, the designer clothes, dinners at expensive restaurants I'd heard them mention. They weren't struggling. They were spending recklessly and using me as their safety net. The realization hit me like cold water. My daughter was manipulating me. Whether she learned it from Derek or developed it herself didn't matter. The pattern was clear. I made coffee and continued thinking. If I gave her the 2,000 now, would anything change? Of course not. In 2 months, there'd be another crisis, another tearful call. The cycle would continue until my savings were gone. Robert and I had worked hard for that money. We'd denied ourselves luxuries, saved carefully, planned for a retirement we only got 4 years to share. That money was supposed to last me the rest of my life. At 68, I couldn't earn it back. What would Robert say if he were here? I knew the answer. He'd always been less tolerant of Melissa's dramatics than I was. "You're too soft with her, Linda," he'd told me more than once. "She needs to stand on her own feet." I'd defended her then, but Robert had been right. By evening, I had decided. No more money. Not until I understood the full scope of what was happening. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I studied the transfers I'd made to Melissa's account. All documented, thankfully. Then I noticed something odd. In April, I'd given Melissa $3,000. But that same week, I saw a charge on my credit card I didn't recognize. Nordstrom, $700. My card was kept in my purse, which I never let out of my sight, except when Melissa and Derek visited. My purse sat on the hall table while we ate dinner. I felt sick. I pulled my credit card statements for the past 6 months. There were 4 charges I hadn't made, all at high-end stores, all on dates when Melissa and Derek had visited. $1,900 in unauthorized charges. I sat back, my coffee gone cold. This wasn't just financial irresponsibility. This was theft. My own daughter was stealing from me. The next morning, I called my bank and reported the fraudulent charges. The representative was sympathetic. "Do you know who might have accessed your card?" "I'm not sure yet," I lied. "Can you cancel this card and send me a new one?" "Of course, Mrs. Patterson. We'll start a fraud investigation." After hanging up, I called my friend Margaret, who'd been a family lawyer before retiring. We met for coffee that afternoon. "Margaret, I need advice," I said. "Hypothetically, if someone's daughter was taking money from them without permission, what could they do?" Margaret's sharp eyes studied me. "Linda, is Melissa stealing from you?" I nodded, tears finally coming. Margaret reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then you document everything," she said firmly. "Every transaction, every lie, every manipulation, and then you protect yourself." Margaret gave me concrete steps. First, secure all my financial accounts. Second, install a camera in my home. Third, keep a detailed journal of every interaction with Melissa. "This feels like I'm treating my own daughter like a criminal," I said. "Linda, she is acting like one. I know this is painful, but you need to protect yourself." That afternoon, I changed all my passwords. Bank accounts, credit cards, email, everything. I enabled two-factor authentication. I called my bank again and put verbal password protection on my accounts. No one could access information or make changes without providing a specific code word only I knew. Then I drove to an electronics store and bought a small security camera. The young man helping me showed me how to set it up. "It connects to your phone," he explained. "You can check the footage anytime." I installed it in my living room that evening, disguised on a bookshelf between framed photos. It had a clear view of the hall table where I kept my purse. I didn't call Melissa back about the money. She called me 3 times over the next 2 days. I let them go to voicemail. Finally, she sent a text. "Mom, I really need to hear from you. Please call me back." I responded simply, "I'm thinking things through. I'll be in touch soon." On the 4th day, Melissa and Derek showed up at my door unannounced. I watched through the window as they got out of the BMW. Derek looked irritated. Melissa looked worried. I opened the door before they could knock. "Mom, what's going on?" Melissa tried to hug me, but I stepped back. Her face showed confusion. "Why haven't you returned my calls?" "Come in," I said calmly. "We should talk." They sat on my couch. I remained standing. "I've been reviewing my finances," I began, "and I've realized I can't give you any more money, Melissa. I'm sorry, but Mom, we're desperate if we don't pay rent." "You're not desperate." My voice was steady. "You lease a BMW. You buy designer purses. Those aren't the choices of desperate people." Derek's expression hardened. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "How can you say that? You don't know what our life is like. I know you haven't paid back the $8,000 you borrowed. I know you come here for dinner twice a week, but never invite me to your home. I know my belongings disappear and never return. We're going through a hard time. So am I, Melissa. I'm living on a fixed income. Your father's pension and our savings are all I have." Derek stood up. "This is unbelievable. What kind of mother keeps a ledger of what she gives her own daughter?" "The kind who needs to make her money last another 20 years. I looked directly at him. "And I'm not talking to you, Derek. This is between Melissa and me." His jaw clenched. Melissa grabbed his hand. "Derek, please." "I think we should go," he said coldly. "Your mother has made her position clear. She values money more than family." "That's not fair," I said, but they were already moving toward the door. Melissa turned back, mascara running down her cheeks. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything. After everything, you still haven't asked how I'm doing, I said quietly. You haven't asked about my health, my life, my grief over your father. You only call when you need something. She stared at me, mouth open. Then she followed Derek out. I watched them drive away, then sat down heavily. My heart was pounding. Had I been too harsh? No, a voice inside me said. You were honest. That evening, I checked the security camera footage from their visit. My breath caught. There, clear as day, was Derek walking past the hall table. He glanced toward the kitchen where I'd gone to get water. His hand reached out, opened my purse, and pulled out. I rewound and watched again. He'd taken my checkbook, with my signature on every check. My account numbers, everything someone would need to forge checks. I immediately called my bank and put a stop on my checking account. I need to close this account and open a new one, I told them. Someone has stolen my checkbook. We can help with that, Mrs. Patterson. Can you come in tomorrow morning? After hanging up, I sat in the darkness of my living room, watching the video clip again and again. There was no ambiguity, no room for interpretation. My son-in-law had stolen from me, and my daughter had stood watch. This was my point of no return. The next morning, I went to my bank and closed my old checking account. The manager, a kind woman named Patricia, helped me open a new one with enhanced security features. Mrs. Patterson, I have to ask, are you safe? Is someone threatening you? Not physically, I said. But yes, someone is taking advantage of me financially. Family member? I nodded. Patricia's expression softened with understanding. You're doing the right thing. We see this more often than you'd think. Adult children exploiting elderly parents. I'm not elderly, I said, a bit sharply. Of course not. I apologize. But you are protecting yourself, and that takes courage. I also filed a police report about the stolen checkbook. The officer who took my statement was professional, but realistic. Without proof they used it, there's not much we can do. But you'll have documentation if checks start appearing. I have video of the theft, I said, showing him the camera footage on my phone. His eyebrows rose. That's clear evidence. We'll keep this on file. If forged checks surface, we can pursue charges. That afternoon, my doorbell rang. Melissa stood there alone, her face blotchy from crying. Mom, the bank called. They said you closed your account. Why would you do that? So they had tried to use my checks. My stomach turned. Why were you trying to access my closed account, Melissa? I wasn't. She stopped, realizing her mistake. Derek stole my checkbook. I have him on camera. Her face went white. Camera? What are you talking about? I installed security cameras. I watched him take my checkbook from my purse. You're spying on us? Your own family? Her shock was turning to anger. What's wrong with you? What's wrong is that my daughter's husband is stealing from me, and my daughter is helping him. We weren't going to steal. We were just going to borrow. You can't borrow money by forging checks, Melissa. That's called fraud. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. You're really going to do this? Turn on your own daughter? I'm all you have, Mom. Dad's gone. You're alone. Do you really want to lose me, too? The threat was clear. Comply or lose your daughter. I'd spent 6 months afraid of exactly that, losing Melissa. But standing there, seeing the manipulation tactics so clearly, I realized something. I'd already lost her. Or perhaps I'd never really had the daughter I thought I did. If being in your life means letting you steal from me, then yes, Melissa, I'm willing to lose you. Her mouth opened and closed. She hadn't expected that response. Derek will be so angry, she said finally. He's already talking about how disrespectful you've been, how you've insulted him. Derek can be as angry as he likes. He's not welcome in my home anymore. And neither are you. unless you're ready to have an honest conversation about paying back what you owe me. We don't owe you anything. That money was a gift. Loans aren't gifts, Melissa, and stolen checks definitely aren't gifts. She pointed her finger at me, her hand shaking. You'll regret this. You're going to end up alone, miserable, and when you need help, don't come crying to me. I won't, I said quietly. Goodbye, Melissa. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched her stand on my porch for a full minute before finally leaving. That evening, the threatening texts started. First from Melissa. You've always been controlling. Now I see who you really are. Then from Derek. You're a vindictive old woman. Melissa deserves better than you. More messages followed. Accusations. Guilt trips. Statements about what a terrible mother I'd been. How I'd never supported Melissa's dreams. How I'd always favored Robert over her. None of it was true, but it still hurt. I turned off my phone and ran a bath. Margaret had warned me this would happen. When you set boundaries with manipulators, they escalate. They'll try everything to regain control. You have to stay strong. The next few days, I focused on myself. I gardened. I read books I'd been meaning to finish. I had coffee with Margaret and Susan. I deliberately didn't check my phone except once a day. The messages continued, but their frequency decreased. By the fourth day, they stopped entirely. I allowed myself to rest, to process what had happened, to grieve the relationship I'd thought I had with my daughter. On the sixth day of silence, a flower delivery arrived. 24 white roses with a card. Mom, I'm sorry. Can we talk? I miss you. Love, Melissa. I stared at the arrangement on my kitchen counter. White roses had been my favorite since I was young. Melissa knew that. This was calculated. I called the florist. How much did this arrangement cost? That particular design is $175, ma'am. $175. Money they claimed not to have for rent. I thanked her and hung up. The flowers stayed on my counter, beautiful and poisonous. The next day, Melissa called. I answered. Did you get the flowers? Her voice was soft, conciliatory. I did. I meant what I said, Mom. I'm sorry. I've been under so much stress and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. I said nothing. Derek feels terrible, too. He wants to apologize for taking your checkbook. He panicked because we were so desperate. It was wrong, and we know that. You tried to use the checks after I closed the account, I said calmly. Silence. Then, that was a misunderstanding. We didn't realize. Melissa, stop. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's not true. I love you, Mom. I don't want to lose our relationship over money. This isn't about money. This is about respect, trust, honesty. Then let's rebuild those things. Please, can Derek and I take you to dinner? Somewhere nice. We can talk everything through. I imagined it, sitting across from them at an expensive restaurant they couldn't afford, listening to rehearsed apologies while they worked toward asking for more money. Or worse, trying to convince me that I'd overreacted. No, thank you. Mom, I need more time, Melissa, and I need to see real change, not just words. What kind of change? Start paying back what you owe me. Even $50 a month would show good faith. Her tone shifted just slightly. We can't afford that right now. But you can afford $175 in flowers. Silence again. I have to go, I said. Take care of yourself, Melissa. I hung up before she could respond. That afternoon, I attended my book club for the first time in months. I'd been avoiding it, embarrassed by my family situation, but Margaret had convinced me to come. 6 women sat in Susan's living room, drinking tea and discussing the month's selection. After we finished talking about the book, Susan looked at me kindly. Linda, you seem lighter somehow. Are you doing okay? I hesitated, then decided to be honest. I've been dealing with some family issues, but I'm managing. Your daughter? Asked Ruth, a retired social worker. I nodded. She's been taking advantage financially. I've had to set some boundaries. To my surprise, 3 other women nodded knowingly. My son did that for years, said Patricia. Bled me dry until I finally said no. He didn't speak to me for 18 months. My daughter, too, added Ruth. She'd guilt me constantly. After all I've done for you, she'd say. Meanwhile, I'd raised her, paid for her education, helped with her children. What did you do? I asked. I went to therapy, Ruth said. Best decision I ever made. My therapist helped me see that I wasn't responsible for my adult daughter's choices. That saying no wasn't cruel, it was necessary. The other women shared their stories. I realized I wasn't alone. This pattern, adult children exploiting aging parents, was common. Too common. The hardest part, Patricia said, is accepting that the child you loved might not be the person standing in front of you. You have to grieve that loss, even though they're still alive. Her words brought tears to my eyes. That's exactly what it feels like. Grief. Margaret squeezed my hand. You're going to get through this, Linda. You're stronger than you think. That week, I took Ruth's advice and made an appointment with a therapist. Dr. Ellen Chen specialized in family dynamics and elder financial abuse. What you're experiencing has a name, she told me in our first session. Financial exploitation. It's one of the most common forms of elder abuse, and it's often perpetrated by family members. I don't think of myself as elderly, I said. You don't have to be elderly to be exploited, but the tactics are the same. Isolation, guilt, leveraging the parents' love against them. Over the next few sessions, Dr. Chen helped me understand the manipulation patterns. She taught me how to recognize DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Melissa had used it perfectly. When confronted about stealing, she'd denied it, attacked me for being controlling, and positioned herself as the victim of my cruelty. You're not crazy, Dr. Chen said. You're not mean. You're protecting yourself. That's not just okay. It's necessary. For the first time in months, I felt validation. 3 weeks after the flowers, Melissa and Derek appeared at my door on a Sunday morning. I was still in my bathrobe having coffee in my kitchen. We need to talk, Melissa said through the screen door. Please, Mom, give us a chance to make this right. Against my better judgment, I let them in. Dr. Chen had warned me about this. They'll try new approaches when the old ones fail. Stay alert. They sat on my couch, looking repentant. Derek even brought a small potted plant. A peace offering, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We've done a lot of thinking, Melissa began. And you're right. We haven't been fair to you. We've been selfish. I waited. Derek got a new job, steady income, good benefits. We're getting our finances in order. We want to start fresh with you. That's good news, I said carefully. I'm glad you're doing better. So we were thinking, Derek leaned forward, maybe we could forget about the past. Clean slate. No more talk about money owed, no more tension, just family. There it was. They wanted me to forgive the debt. I'm willing to move forward, I said. But moving forward doesn't mean erasing the past. You still owe me $8,000 in loans. Melissa's smile faltered. Mom, we just said we want a fresh start. That means letting go of grudges. It's not a grudge. It's a debt. You borrowed money and promised to repay it. Derek's expression hardened. Mrs. Patterson, with all due respect, family doesn't keep score. What kind of mother demands repayment from her struggling daughter? The kind who needs that money to live on, I replied evenly. I'm not wealthy. That $8,000 represents months of my pension. You have this whole house. Derek gestured around. You could sell it, downsize. You don't need all this space. My blood ran cold. You want me to sell my house? We're just saying you have options. Meanwhile, Melissa and I are trying to build a life. We might want kids someday. How can we afford that if we're paying back loans to you? You should have thought about that before borrowing the money. Melissa's mask slipped. I can't believe you. After everything I've been through, my divorce, losing Dad, struggling to find myself, and you can't even forgive a few $1,000s? $8,000, plus the $1,900 you stole using my credit card, plus the value of items you took from my home. We didn't steal. Melissa stood up, her voice rising. You gave us those things. I didn't give Derek permission to take my checkbook. Derek stood too, his face flushed. You know what your problem is? You're bitter. A bitter old woman who can't stand to see her daughter happy. Robert probably died just to get away from you. The words hit like a physical blow. Melissa gasped. Derek! But he wasn't done. She's poisoning you against me, Melissa. Can't you see that? She wants you alone and miserable like her. I stood slowly, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Get out of my house. Mom! Melissa reached for me. No, get out, both of you, now. Derek grabbed Melissa's arm. Fine. We tried to be reasonable. But you want to play hardball? We can play hardball too. What does that mean? I asked. He smiled, cold and calculating. It means you're going to regret this. You're old, Linda. You're going to need help someday. Who do you think is going to be there for you? Not us. You'll die alone in a nursing home because you valued money over family. I valued honesty over manipulation, I said quietly. There's a difference. Melissa was crying now, but I couldn't tell if the tears were real or performative. You're making a mistake, Mom. You're going to lose me. Then I guess I'm losing you. Derek pulled Melissa toward the door. Don't call us when you fall and can't get up. Don't call us when you're sick. You made your choice. They slammed the door behind them. I heard the BMW's engine roar aggressively as they sped away. I stood in my living room, shaking. The cruelty of Derek's words about Robert echoed in my mind. The threat about dying alone. The venom in their voices. For a moment, fear gripped me. What if they were right? What if I did end up alone? Then I thought about Dr. Chen's words. Fear is their weapon. They use it to control you. Don't let them. I sat down and called Margaret. They just left, I told her. It was ugly. Tell me everything. After I recounted the conversation, Margaret was quiet for a moment. Linda, you need to consider getting a restraining order. That seems extreme. He threatened you, and I think they're going to escalate. Will you at least think about it? I promised I would. That night, I barely slept. But when morning came, I wasn't broken. I was angry. And anger, I was learning, could be productive. 2 weeks later, I received a call from my bank. Patricia's voice was serious. Mrs. Patterson, 3 checks have been presented against your old account. They're forgeries. How much? 1 for $1,500, 2 for $1,200 each, total of $3,900. My stomach dropped. Can you email me copies? Already done. I've also contacted our fraud department and the police. These are clearly not your signatures. I examined the emailed images. The signatures were crude attempts at mimicking mine. The checks were made out to cash. The dates were from the past 2 weeks. I forwarded everything to the police officer who'd taken my original report. He called me within an hour. Mrs. Patterson, we have enough for charges. The video evidence of the theft combined with these forged checks makes a solid case. Do you want to press charges? Did I? This would mean criminal charges against my son-in-law, possibly my daughter too. Yes, I said. I do. We'll bring them in for questioning. 3 days later, I received a call from Melissa. She was hysterical. The police came to our apartment. They're charging Derek with check fraud. How could you do this to us? I didn't do anything, Melissa. Derek forged checks. He committed a crime. He was desperate. You forced him into this by cutting us off. No one forced him to commit fraud. He made that choice. I hate you, she screamed. You're destroying my marriage, my life. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. She hung up. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Mrs. Patterson? A woman's voice. This is Derek's mother, Carol. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. You're trying to send my son to prison over a misunderstanding. He made a mistake, yes, but he's a good man. Melissa is beside herself. Can't you find it in your heart to drop the charges? Your son didn't make a mistake. He committed calculated fraud, multiple times. He has no criminal record. This will ruin his life. And for what? A few $1,000s? Nearly $4,000 that he stole from me, on top of the $8,000 they borrowed and never repaid. Families work these things out privately. You don't involve the police. Carol, I'm sorry your son is facing consequences for his actions, but I didn't create this situation. He did. You're a vindictive woman. No wonder, Melissa. I hung up. The next day, Derek and Melissa showed up at my house with Carol and an older man I assumed was Derek's father. 4 against 1. I didn't open the door. I called through it. Whatever you have to say, you can say it through lawyers. Derek pounded on the door. You can't hide forever. I'm not hiding. I'm protecting my property. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. Fine, Derek shouted. But you should know, we're going to sue you for the emotional distress you've caused Melissa, for destroying our family. We'll take everything you have. I opened the door just enough to look him in the eye. You're welcome to try. But I have documentation of every dollar you took, video of you stealing my checkbook, copies of forged checks, bank statements, police reports. What do you have? His face went red. You're bluffing. Try me. I looked at Melissa. You could have had a mother who loved you. Instead, you chose a man who turned you into a thief and a liar. That's your tragedy, not mine. Melissa lunged forward, but Carol grabbed her. You'll pay for this, Melissa screamed. Everyone will know what kind of person you are. Good, I said calmly. Tell everyone. Tell them how you stole from your widowed mother. Tell them about the forged checks. Please share our story. The certainty in my voice stopped them. They looked at each other, suddenly uncertain. Derek's father spoke for the first time. Derek, let's go. She's not backing down. We're not done, Derek insisted. Yes, I said firmly. We are. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched them argue on my lawn. Carol was crying. Derek was gesturing wildly. Melissa stood frozen. Finally, they left. I sat down, my legs weak, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I'd faced them down, I'd stood my ground, and I'd won. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Derek's case went before a judge within 6 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Video footage of the theft, forged checks, my bank's fraud report, and my detailed documentation. Derek's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. The prosecutor called me to discuss it. They're offering restitution and probation if he pleads guilty. No jail time. What about Melissa? I asked. There's not enough evidence to charge her as an accomplice. She claims she didn't know what he was doing. I knew that was a lie, but proving it was different. I'll accept the plea deal on one condition, I said. Full restitution, every dollar. The $8,000 in loans, the $1,900 in credit card fraud, and the $3,900 in forged checks. $17,800 total. That's a substantial amount. It's what I'm owed. The prosecutor agreed to present my terms. 2 days later, they accepted. Derek would plead guilty, pay full restitution on a court-mandated schedule, serve 3 years probation, and complete financial management classes. The day of his plea hearing, I attended. Melissa sat on the other side of the courtroom with Derek's parents. She didn't look at me once. Derek stood before the judge, looking smaller than I remembered. He pleaded guilty in a quiet voice. "Mr. Morrison," the judge said, "you stole from your wife's mother, someone who trusted you, welcomed you into her family, and helped you financially. That's not just illegal, it's morally reprehensible. You're fortunate Mrs. Patterson agreed to this plea. I would have pushed for incarceration." Derek's shoulders slumped. "You'll pay Mrs. Patterson $300 per month until the debt is satisfied. If you miss a single payment, you'll serve the suspended sentence of 18 months. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor." The judge looked at me. "Mrs. Patterson, do you wish to address the court?" I stood. All eyes turned to me. "I want to say that this has been the most painful experience of my life. Not because of the money, but because of the betrayal. I taught my daughter to be honest, kind, and responsible. Somewhere along the way, those lessons were forgotten. I hope that through this process, she and Derek learn what I tried to teach. That actions have consequences. That trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. And that family means caring for each other, not exploiting each other." I sat down. Melissa was crying, her face in her hands. The judge nodded solemnly. "Well said, Mrs. Patterson. This court sees too many cases like this. Family members exploiting those who love them most. It's particularly disturbing when adult children treat their parents as unlimited resources rather than human beings deserving respect." After the hearing, I walked to my car. Margaret had come for support and walked beside me. "You did it," she said. "I did. How do you feel?" "Tired, sad, but also free." We stopped at a cafe nearby. Margaret ordered us both coffee and pastries. "Linda, I'm proud of you," she said. "When you first came to me, you were broken, questioning yourself. Now look at you. You stood in front of a judge and spoke your truth with dignity. I had good teachers. You, Dr. Chen, the women at book club." "No," Margaret shook her head. "You had support. But the courage? That was all you." I felt tears prick my eyes. I keep thinking about Melissa. She looked so devastated. She's devastated because she got caught and there were consequences. That's different from genuine remorse. How will I know if she ever has genuine remorse? She'll apologize without excuses. She'll take full responsibility. She'll ask what she can do to make amends, not what you can do to make her feel better. The monthly payments began arriving like clockwork. Derek never missed one, probably terrified of jail. Each check felt like validation, not because I needed the money, though I did, but because it meant justice had been served. I created a special savings account for the restitution payments. Rebuilding Fund, I called it. Every deposit reminded me that I'd stood my ground and won. 3 weeks after the hearing, my lawyer called. "Mrs. Patterson, I wanted to inform you that Derek and Melissa attempted to file a countersuit claiming emotional distress." My heart sank. "And?" "The judge dismissed it immediately, called it frivolous, and warned them about wasting the court's time. They won't be trying that again." Relief washed over me. They'd tried one last manipulation, one last attempt to turn themselves into victims, and it had failed. Melissa sent me one email, 3 months after the hearing. "Mom, I don't know if you'll read this. I'm so angry at you, but I'm also starting to understand. Derek and I are in couples counseling. He's working 2 jobs to make the payments. I got a new job too in HR. We're struggling, but we're making it. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'm trying to forgive myself for what we did. Maybe someday we can talk. M. I read it several times. The lack of apology stung. The angry at you was predictable. Darvo to the end. But the acknowledgement of what they'd done, the mention of counseling, the personal accountability, those were seeds. I showed the email to Dr. Chen in our next session. What do you think? I asked. I think she's still processing. She's taking baby steps toward accountability. But notice, she's angry at you for enforcing consequences, not at herself for creating the situation. That tells me she's not ready. Should I respond? Only if you want to. And only if you're prepared for the possibility that she'll use any opening to ask for something. I decided not to respond. Not yet. Perhaps someday. But I needed to see real change, not just words. 6 months after the hearing, I ran into Derek's mother, Carol, at the grocery store. She looked older, tired. Linda, she said quietly, I owe you an apology. I didn't want to believe Derek could do what he did. I thought you were exaggerating. But he's told us everything now, the manipulation, the lies. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Carol. He's doing better. The counseling is helping. He's ashamed of what he did. I hope he gets the help he needs. You know, Carol continued, his father and I raised him to be honest. We thought we did everything right. But somewhere, I don't know, I failed him too. You didn't make his choices, Carol. He did. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you for that. And thank you for not destroying him completely. You could have pushed for jail time. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. There's a difference. She squeezed my hand and walked away. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. I'd stood my ground. I'd protected myself. I'd demanded accountability. And I'd survived. More than survived. I'd reclaimed my dignity, my boundaries, and my peace of mind. The money was being repaid. The legal battle was won. The manipulation had ended. For the first time in over a year, I could breathe freely. The weight that had pressed on my chest for months, the constant anxiety, the second guessing, the fear, had lifted. I walked taller, slept better, smiled more readily. Justice wasn't just about the court ruling. It was about proving to myself that I mattered, that my well-being was worth fighting for. And that was the greatest victory of all. With the legal battle behind me, I began rebuilding my life in ways I hadn't imagined possible. Dr. Chen and I continued our weekly sessions, but they shifted from crisis management to personal growth. You've discovered strength you didn't know you had, she told me. Now let's build on it. I joined a senior fitness class at the community center. At first, I felt self-conscious. The oldest trauma I carried was of being alone. But the women in the class welcomed me. We went for coffee after workouts. I learned their stories, shared mine. Friendship bloomed. Within 3 months, I'd formed a close circle of 5 women. We called ourselves the Tuesday Squad because we met every Tuesday after class. These women became my chosen family, supportive, honest, and genuinely interested in my well-being, not my wallet. I also volunteered at the library where I'd worked for 35 years. Twice a week, I ran a reading program for children. Their faces lit up when I did character voices. Their joy was infectious, healing. One little girl, maybe 6 years old, hugged me after story time. "You're the best grandma reader ever," she said. My eyes filled with tears. I was a grandmother who'd lost her grandchild role, but here I could still share that love. My book club became a cornerstone of my social life. We expanded our meetings to include monthly dinners. I hosted one in my home, the first time I'd entertained in over a year. My house filled with laughter, conversation, warmth. Standing in my kitchen, listening to these women chat and laugh, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. I'd just been so focused on the toxic relationship with Melissa that I'd neglected all the healthy ones around me. Ruth, the retired social worker, became a particularly close friend. "You know what you should do," she said one evening. "Write about your experience. Help other people who are being exploited by family members." I started a blog called Standing Strong: One Grandmother's Story. I shared my experience honestly, the manipulation, the theft, the legal battle. I detailed the warning signs I'd missed, the tactics they'd used, the steps I'd taken to protect myself. The response overwhelmed me. Hundreds of people commented, sharing their own stories of exploitation. Many were elderly parents dealing with adult children who saw them as ATMs. Others were younger people struggling to set boundaries with toxic family members. "Your story gave me courage," one woman wrote. "My son has been stealing from me for 3 years. I thought I was the only one." "Thank you for showing that it's okay to say no to family," another comment read. "I felt so guilty." I created a support group that met monthly at the library. 15 people attended the first meeting. By the third month, we had 40 regular members. By the sixth month, we were at 65 and had to move to a larger room. We shared resources, legal advice, emotional support. I watched people find their strength, just as I had found mine. Several members successfully prosecuted family members who'd stolen from them. Others simply learned to set boundaries and say no. A local newspaper interviewed me about the support group. The article ran with the headline, "Local Grandmother Helps Others Stand Against Financial Abuse." It brought even more people to our group. The monthly payments from Derek continued like clockwork. Each check deposited was a reminder that justice existed, that standing up for myself had been right. I also sold some of Robert's tools and sports equipment that I'd been keeping out of sentiment. I used the money to renovate my backyard, creating a small garden. I planted roses, lavender, tomatoes. Working in the soil was therapeutic. Watching things grow felt symbolic. My neighbor, a retired landscaper, helped me design a small patio area. We installed a bench where I could sit in the evenings with a book and glass of wine. That bench became my favorite place, a physical representation of the peace I'd created. My health improved too. I lost 15 pounds from the fitness classes. My blood pressure normalized. My doctor was impressed with my cholesterol levels. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," she said. "I'm living for myself now," I told her, "not for someone else's expectations." Meanwhile, through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances, I heard about Melissa and Derek's struggles. Derek's mother, Carol, occasionally called me with updates. "I thought you should know," she'd say, then share news. Derek was working 2 jobs, one in construction during the day, one doing night shifts at a warehouse. The court-ordered payments, combined with their regular bills, left them barely scraping by. They'd had to move to a smaller, cheaper apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. The BMW was repossessed. Derek now drove a 15-year-old Honda with a cracked windshield. Melissa's job in HR was demanding and paid less than her previous marketing positions. She worked 50-hour weeks. The stress was affecting her health. Carol mentioned she'd developed anxiety, insomnia, and stress-related digestive issues. Their marriage was badly strained. Carol worried they might divorce. "Derek is different now," she said. "More withdrawn, angry. Melissa is always stressed, crying at family dinners. They barely talk to each other except to argue about money. Derek blames Melissa for not talking you out of pressing charges, Carol continued. Melissa blames Derek for stealing in the first place. It's toxic. I felt no satisfaction in hearing this. Their suffering gave me no joy, but it did confirm something important. Actions have consequences. They'd chosen to lie, steal, and manipulate. Now they were living with the results of those choices. The fancy lifestyle they'd built on borrowed and stolen money had collapsed. Reality had caught up. Susan mentioned she'd seen Melissa at the grocery store. She looked exhausted, Linda. Thin, dark circles under her eyes. She was buying generic brands, clipping coupons. She didn't recognize me at first, seemed distracted. I felt a pang. She was still my daughter. Part of me wanted to reach out, but Dr. Chen cautioned against it. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't shown real remorse. Reaching out now would only enable her to see you as a resource again. You'd be rewarding bad behavior. But she's suffering. She's experiencing consequences. That's different. Suffering can lead to growth if she chooses to learn from it. So I stayed strong. I didn't reach out. One afternoon, browsing at a bookstore, I ran into an old colleague from the library. We had coffee, caught up. She mentioned Melissa. I saw her at a coffee shop last week. She was crying on the phone. I felt bad for her. Did you talk to her? No, but Linda, she looked broken, defeated. I went home troubled. That evening I wrote in my journal, Melissa is suffering. Part of me wants to rescue her. But rescuing her now would undo everything I've worked for. It would tell her that she can behave badly and still get what she wants. Sometimes love means letting someone experience the consequences of their choices. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is step back and let their child learn from their mistakes, even when those mistakes cause pain. The words were painful but true. My new life was peaceful, full, rich. I had friends, purpose, hobbies, health. I laughed often. I felt valued and respected. Their lives were difficult, stressed, strained. They struggled financially, emotionally, and relationally. The difference was clear. I'd chosen honesty and boundaries. They'd chosen manipulation and exploitation. We were all living with our choices. And for the first time in my adult life, I was truly happy. Looking back now, 2 years later, I understand something crucial. Protecting yourself isn't cruel. It's necessary. I learned that love without boundaries isn't love. It's exploitation waiting to happen. I learned that being a good parent doesn't mean being an endless resource. It means teaching responsibility, even when the lessons hurt. My relationship with Melissa remains fractured. Maybe someday we'll reconcile. Maybe we won't. I've made peace with both possibilities. The monthly payments continue. Derek has $14,000 left to repay. Each check reminds me, I stood my ground. I survived. I thrived. So I ask you, if someone you love was stealing from you, manipulating you, exploiting your kindness, what would you do? Would you enable them or would you stand strong? The choice is yours. But remember, you deserve dignity. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped even one person find their strength, then sharing it was worth every painful moment. Stand strong.